Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. My name is Joe Murphy. I'm a lawyer with Allegheny Immigration Group in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. My practice is primarily in family and humanitarian-based cases. Our telephone number is 412-586-4131. One of the most common types of cases that we see in my business is what's called immigration through marriage, and that's where a citizen of the United States marries a foreigner lawfully in our country and then wants to get a green card for the foreign spouse. The calls I get are primarily, Joe, what sort of evidence do we need to get, or what sort of documents, what sorts of proof and records do we need to get together to help you help us? And in this live, I'm going to talk about the sort of things I need from you, if this is the situation you're finding yourself in, or any client in this situation, in order to best represent their interest in having the foreign spouse obtain a green card and be able to stay in the United States. Don't send us originals of any evidence or documents. We want you to hold on to your originals. We can't take responsibility for those, and we're certainly not going to give them to the government because the government's notoriously bad and loses things all the time. What we need you to send to us is high resolution, very good, very clear copies of documents that you have the original to. During the course of the representation, of course, we'll be reviewing the documents, taking information from them to prepare filings, looking for any potential problems that the documents might alert us to. We'll also be in contact with you about things that only you would know and that might not be on the documents, such as your mother's maiden name, place of birth, date of birth, and then similar information about your schooling or any potential interactions you might have had with law enforcement, any number of things. But we're in good, constant contact with our clients, and we support them through the process. This live isn't about that. This is about the types of evidence and things that we will need from you. But in addition to the evidence, one of the things we will need from you is information. We'll have to talk to you on the telephone, Skype, text, things like that. We keep in pretty constant contact with our clients. But of course, again, people in town or nearby just stop by the office, and that's still certainly available. Our practice has grown now to distances where people would find it much more convenient to use things like overnight mail, email, and things of that nature. All right, let's get into it. In the hypothetical or typical situation, the U.S. citizen marries a foreigner legally inside the United States and now wants that foreigner to be able to stay in the United States permanently and live together as spouses. That's basically what the spouse wants, is a green card or a permanent resident card. When that comes through marriage, the green card is a conditional permanent resident card, and the condition is that they stay married for 2 years. Once you've done the deed, you're going to want to hire a lawyer to get you a green card, and that lawyer is going to need certain documents, evidence, proof to support your claim, and that's what we're going to get into now. Okay, so in an immigration by marriage case, the foreign spouse is adjusting their status to permanent resident based on their marriage to an American citizen. And the American citizen, generally, at least the way I think of it, would be filing first. And they're notifying the government that they've married a foreign national. They're now called in immigration law an alien family member. In this case, the family member would be spouse. And the initial filing by the citizen would have to have some evidence. And here's the first sets of evidence, the first things of evidence that I need to help you or someone who's in the situation with their immigration based on marriage. Again, the foundational element of the foreigner's claim to citizenship is that they've married an American citizen. The American citizen is filing and saying, I'm a citizen, give my spouse the ability to adjust status. So the first thing the American citizen has to prove is that they are, in fact, an American citizen. And the normal way that's done is by giving us a copy of a birth certificate in one of the United States or a passport issued by the United States of America. Now, we don't want the originals. We need clear, high-resolution copies. And where you're sending us your passport, whether you're the citizen spouse or the foreigner spouse, we need copies of all pages of the passport in high resolution. And the reason for that is that the pages are numbered. So if somebody's going through the document and notices that page 12 is missing, they might wonder if, for example, there was a North Korean entry stamp on that page that you don't want to disclose. The next thing you're going to want to have is proof that you actually had a marriage ceremony, and that's normally done with a marriage certificate. It could also be, well, that's the prime way of doing it. There could be like a common law marriage where people exchanged vows, but then you would later have to formalize that before a government agency so that a certificate that you're actually married could be issued. You want to then prove that you're also, and this is the other proof that I need, is that any prior marriages of the citizen spouse have ended, and that could be through divorce, annulment, or even the death of the spouse, but I would need that divorce certificate, annulment finding, or even death certificate to prove that all prior spouses of the citizen spouse, all prior marriages of the citizen spouse are over, because in the United States we only allow one spouse at a time, and that would be something to indicate a problem already with the marriage. The next thing that you have to attach is probably the most confusing part for a lot of people, and that's called evidence of bona fides. Having a marriage certificate just means that you and your spouse went before some official and recited the magic words. That doesn't mean it's a real marriage. And it's a legal marriage for sure. But when I say real or bona fide marriage, and that's in the context of immigration law, what we're really talking about is the service trying to make sure that it isn't some sort of fraudulent marriage where perhaps money changed hands and people got married solely for the purpose of getting a green card for the foreigner. And that's one of the first checks they do. They want to make sure that you can supply evidence of bona fides. Now, what do I mean by bona fides? The big theory behind evidence of a bona fide marriage is that you're acting like married people. And the most common thing that married people do is commingle in various ways. They live together. So if you have a joint habitation, that could be a shared apartment lease or a deed of the house where you're both on it, that's great evidence. Where you are listed as extra drivers on each other's auto policies, reciprocal life insurance policies, each listing the other spouse as a beneficiary, where one spouse has workplace provided health insurance, listing the other spouse as as a secondary beneficiary. Those things are all great evidence of bona fides. I don't want you to be terribly intimidated by the bona fides thing. It's not really designed where you have to be rich. Okay, if you don't own a house, a lot of people don't own houses. You could have a lease together, and I've had situations where people didn't own a house or have a lease. They just kind of had an informal verbal lease with someone they'd been paying for years, and I was able to demonstrate bona fides by showing, in that case, they had leased some furniture and television equipment. They had a joint lease at Rent-A-Center, and that was accepted as some evidence of bona fides. I always say that the ultimate commingling evidence of bona fide is a birth certificate of the child born of the marriage. But those are the sorts of things. So we're talking about joint leases where both spouses are on a deed to real estate owned in common, reciprocal life insurance policies, listed as an additional driver, those sorts of things. If you don't have any of those, I don't want you to worry, but that's the sort of thing that you'll be talking to us about during the course of our preparing your filings. After bona fides, the citizen spouse also has to prove the ability to support the foreign spouse. We don't want these people becoming a public charge where they're dependent upon welfare. There has to be enough money to support the foreign spouse. And that's done based on the number of people that are dependent upon the citizen spouse's income. In the typical case, it's younger people getting married, so it would be just two people in the marriage. But where the citizen spouse or foreign spouse has children, they have to be included in the number of people in the household. Once you have the total number of people in the household, we can, by reference to a specific table that the USCIS or the government, the immigration authorities, gives us, to demonstrate that there is enough income. Again, this is something where if there's not enough income, we can certainly, there are other ways of demonstrating an ability to support. There can be extra sponsors or co-sponsors. There can be, if there's property, we can sometimes, or significant assets in the bank or stocks, we can use those to supplement income to demonstrate the ability to support the alien. But really the basic thing we need here in terms of the proof of ability to support is 3 years tax returns for the citizen spouse. So we need copies of the last 3 tax returns that citizen spouse filed. So what else do I have in my notes here? And then we'll need passport photos of the citizen spouse. Again, people try and do all sorts of things. People are busy. They try and take pictures with their phone and print them out. Here I'm going to ask you to go to your local chain drugstore. I think CVS gives 6 passport photos for $13.99. Those are great. They're nice quality, and that's what we would like in that regard. And I think that's it for the citizen spouse. Now, the foreign spouse has some documentation we'll need too. Basically what you've got here is a situation where the citizen has said, I'm married to a foreigner, I'm a citizen, I have the ability to support them, I have no other marriages going right now, and then the foreigner shows up and says, and I'm that foreigner. So what does the foreigner need to produce? Well, again, we'll need passport photos from the foreigner too, and again, I suggest original photos, not phone photos or things you printed out. Just go to the CVS or some other. Most of the chain drugstores have passport photo service, and it's usually cost effective. And don't just send us one. I usually like to have at least 4 of each party. We need a copy of the alien spouse's birth certificate. And don't worry if that's in a foreign language. The most important thing is that you get us a high resolution copy of that, so that we can have it translated. If the copy is not good, it may be hard for someone to translate out here. Again, with the passport issue, we need a copy of the entire passport of the alien, all in high resolution. And again, remember the numbered pages. So copy every page, even blank pages, of the alien's passport and send that to us. The alien will have to get a medical examination, and that can't just be by your HMO provided doctor or your whatever your primary care doctor. What you have to do is go to what's called an immigration surgeon. They're all over the country, people that have this credential, and they're credentialed by the immigration authorities to perform the sorts of examinations that the immigration authorities want done. And in many cases, the sort of examination that they do depends on where in the world the aliens come from, the foreigner. I know people get upset with the word alien. So I know that a couple years ago, there was a significant outbreak of tuberculosis in parts of Asia, and we found that in addition to all the basic screening, people from that area of the world were being charged more and subjected to screening for tuberculosis. These are things that are known to the immigration authorities, and the immigration surgeon will know to do that based on where you're from. These can range in price. We will help you find a local immigration surgeon. We have a directory of those that's provided to us by the immigration authorities. But that's one of the pieces of evidence that we need from the alien spouse, is that she's gone and cleared a medical examination. Or if the alien spouse fails, which is fine, that she's taking, or he or she is taking whatever treatment's required. With tuberculosis, I think it was something simple as antibiotics. But in some cases, you might get into things that are much more serious. Well, obviously, almost everything's treatable now. I always want to remind you, do not send us originals. We need high color or high resolution color copies where available of all documents. I want you to keep copies of all the documents you're sending me and the originals. And anytime you're called in for an immigration interview, you want to take the high resolution a set of high resolution copies of every document and the originals. In most cases, if the officer examining you wants a document or doesn't have it, or it didn't get through to them from us, he might ask for your birth certificate or something like that. He's only going to keep a copy. So if you give him the original, he's going to photocopy it and then That's a pain in the butt for the officers. It's better if you have a photocopy made for them, and you just hand them the original and the photocopy. You can look and see that they roughly match. You'll get your original back, and he won't have to get up and photocopy the document. It does go some way toward goodwill in immigration interviews where you're prepared. And we'll talk to you about that through the process of your immigration through marriage filings on how to do that more. In terms of the things we need from the spouse, I believe that's everything I have for the spouse. Okay, so here I'm going to talk a little bit about working with us on one of these cases. Working with us is generally pretty easy in the modern area of all sorts of things. Express mail, fax machines, Skype. People could take pictures of documents with their cell phones and text them to each other. We take advantage of all that, keep in touch with you. I guess the way you'd reach out to us if you wanted our help in an immigration through marriage case, a call or text or any of those sorts of approaches is fine. Once we have your basic information, and that really requires a little more than your email address, we can send you a detailed, so to speak, proposal via email. We'll have instructions on what documents we need. Presumably in our call we would have worked out a fee arrangement, and we can even embed a pay now button into that email with you. You can use your credit or debit card, and that's the way we do that. Our fees, depending upon the complexity of the immigration through marriage case, are about middling. We're not particularly at the high end of the range or the low end of the range, and we do offer kind of a nice thing for people that may not have all the money at once but want to get moving, where we can start working with half of our fee as a down payment. Obviously, our offices are staffed normal business hours, 40 hours a week, 9 to 5. I'm always available either through the Allegheny Immigration Facebook page. You can send me a note on that. You can send me a private message over Facebook. My clients generally just call or text my cell. I really like that. I know a lot of people get nervous. Oh, I don't want to bother the lawyer. Bother me. I like to talk to my clients. You should know that I won't have every single one of your names in my contacts list. So if you do text me, do me a favor and just say, hey Joe, this is, and give me your name so I know specifically who I'm talking about. But we're in contact a lot with our clients and giving them updates, helping them through things, particularly where we might discover something that could cause a problem, and we want to coordinate with the client to address whatever that problem might be. But there's a lot of back and forth with us, and we like that, and that helps the client not worry as much when they're actively involved with us, preparing things that we need. I'm personally available to clients. I strongly encourage people to call, and as I said, don't hesitate. A lot of times people think, oh, well, he doesn't need to be bothered. It's the weekend. If it's on your mind, it's important to you, just call or text. My cell is 412-973-3442, especially if something's bothering you, and double especially if you're worried about something or you don't understand something, or sometimes personality disputes arise. If someone at my office gives you a hard time, certainly contact me immediately. Takes about a week or so from the point in time where we get everything to where we can have at least a first draft of our part of the work, that is preparing the filings to get you a green card together. Now, as demand goes up here lately, we've been moving a little bit more toward 2 weeks. But if there's a rush job, we can obviously, we'd have to charge to move somebody to the head of the line. We could whip one of these up pretty quickly, a day or two. Let's see. Once we get everything and prepare the documents, we will send you a copy of the completed filings that we propose to file. We don't file them without your approval. So you'll be sent an exact high-resolution copy of what we're going to file, and you're asked to look through it, double-check birth dates, spellings, and things of that nature. If you agree with what we sent you, certainly sign it. There'll be a FedEx return mailer, and then we'll send that on to the immigration authorities with a firm check for the appropriate filing fees. As that's done, we provide you with a tracking number on our mailing to the service, and any notice we get from the service that's received will be sent to you. We tend to have notices sent to both the client, or notices from the service sent to both the client and to us. So you can assume that anything you get, we've got too, but it's always good to call us if you get something and don't understand what it is. Let's see. All right, so that's pretty much the nuts and bolts of doing it. Now again, it was spread out over this video, so let me go into the list with you, just so you know. So we need passport photos of both spouses. Real photos, I say get at least 4 of each spouse, and I suggested you do that at the local chain drugstore, Eckerd, CVS, so those places have the ability they have a passport photo machine, and there'll be nice photos for us. The marriage certificate. For the foreign spouse, we need the birth certificate and passport, and that's all pages. For the citizen spouse, we need the birth certificate or passport. And again, if you're sending us the passport, all pages. Any prior marriages of either spouse, we need proof that those are terminated. Again, that would be divorce certificates from the court, annulment orders of a court, and in the case where a prior spouse has died, a death certificate of that spouse. Let's see. The evidence of bona fides, again, it's generally evidence of commingling. If you have any problems with that, just go ahead and call us. I gave some examples earlier. Cohabitation, commingling of bank accounts, insurance policies that pay each other or cover each other, joint magazine subscriptions, children born in the marriage. Those are some very readily available examples. But if you don't have any of that stuff or only have some of it, I don't want you to worry. We'll work with you on that. But that's just to get you an idea of where we're going. So for the financial responsibility component, where the citizen spouse is demonstrating the ability to support, we'll need 3 years tax returns from the American citizen spouse. And then the foreign spouse will need to go in for an immigration examination before an immigration surgeon. That's not something you'd have right now, but once we're working with you, we'll coordinate that examination and make sure the results get to the right places. As I said many times in this, and I tell people all the time, don't send us originals. We can't do anything with them. We need high-resolution copies of the documents you're going to send us, and where that document is multi-pages, like a passport, we need all pages. Don't worry if something's in a foreign language. We work very closely with interpreting companies here. We can interpret anything in any language we want. Let's see. Always don't hesitate to call me. Any concerns, worries, whatever. My cell phone number is 412-973-3442, and you can call or text, and I like to be available. Okay. So that's the basics. We do lots of these, so we've seen some cases where there were difficulties. One spouse may be undocumented, and that will require some additional work. A spouse that's got a significant criminal record will require more work. Overstays, that's where people came into the country legally but stayed beyond their authorized period of time in the country. That can create problems. None of these problems are insurmountable. Some of them are surprisingly easy to deal with if you know what you're doing. And of course, we're equipped to handle them and have handled this sort of stuff many times. Once again, my name is Joe Murphy. I'm a lawyer with Allegheny Immigration Group here in Pittsburgh. We practice really all over the country now. People can send us things by mail and stuff, and we're here to support you in that regard. My office number is 412-586-4131. My cell, if you want to call or text, is 412-973-3442. I'm also available through our Facebook page, Allegheny Immigration Group, and our website, AlleghenyImmigration.com. So that is the basics, the documents you need to help us help you get your spouse a green card. I thank you for your patience and thank you for watching.